I'm Louisa Rowley. I am a blues soul musician from London. Just released the deluxe version of my debut EP, Anxious Soul, and I write sort of retro-inspired blues and soul music, sometimes going into like funk and jazz inspired sounds, but I mostly focus on more modern topics. So I focus a lot on anxiety, on being neurodivergent, post-adolescence, that kind of thing. So it's kind of a something old meets something new.
Like very much what it says on the tin kind of thing.
Yeah, very much so.
But that's good though. I think that's what most music is though, because everyone takes inspiration from someone. So
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting kind of with your music, the meeting of kind of here's like really classic sounds that you'll know, but
Hmm.
then here is like it's very much about kind of the modern world sort of thing that I absolutely love and I really resonate with as well.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's what I want is like, because when I first started writing music, it was very much writing music that I wanted to hear about stuff I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
But as time's gone on, it's like the idea that there are people that will connect with it is like really touching and really nice, and it sort of creates this nice little community. Yeah, so I really like that when people say like, oh, it resonates with me, because I think especially being neurodiverse, it can be such an isolating experience at times. So having people being like, no, I'm neurodiverse and I relate to that, I think can be really nice and really touching.
We are literally everywhere in the music industry as well. We are
Oh, for
journalists,
sure.
musicians, and everything. It's brilliant. I mean, kind of on that topic of resonating, what film or TV character would you say you're resonating with the most at the moment?
Ooh, I would say I've always related a lot to Claire from Derry Girls.
Yeah, that's
Very,
honestly typical
yeah,
neurodivergent experience.
yeah, just very panicked, very stressed, wanting to sort of, or especially like in her setting, she doesn't want to break the rules. Like she's very much, she likes to do things a certain way. So I've always felt Claire from Derry Girls, I think, as well as a little bit of Chidi from The Good Place. I think I've always,
Oh, that's a
yeah.
good one, yeah. It's very much like there's a rigidness, not like a rigidness, but there's almost like you've got to stick within these boundaries kind of thing. I think
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
So
I
yeah,
absolutely get that.
yeah.
So if you see me looking off to the side, by the way, I can't work out if it's snowing or hailing currently outside my window. The weather in Manchester is
That's
insane at the
absolutely
moment.
fine.
It
Yeah,
was raining this morning. I can't actually work out if it's snowing or if it's like
yeah,
full
somewhere in
chaos.
between. I think that's the joy of the English weather, is it's
Oh,
a
it's
bit
mad.
sunny and then it's snowy and then it's rainy sort of all in the day.
UEP Anxious Soul, it is such a gorgeously intimate listening experience. So there's a lot of kind of, I feel like you could listen to it in any weather. It almost goes from kind of like sunny, like, oh my gosh, everything's great, to
Mhm.
kind of like storms kind of going, hang on, I'm kind of losing my footing here a little bit. But it is such a kind of intimate listening experience. And this is your like debut EP. What made you choose to do a deluxe version of this EP instead of a different one down the line?
Yeah, it was something that I felt like, because the actual sort of story of the EP, it felt like was just constantly continuing as time was going on. So it felt like going back and creating sort of something acoustic that's a little bit more intimate, that kind of also pushes away from my usual sound of quite produced, quite a lot of instrumentation, sometimes synths under there, that kind of thing. And so it felt like I wanted to continue exploring that story from my perspective now, as someone down the line. Like I've been through that process of, I've had that nervous breakdown, I've had the autism diagnosis, and so coming into it now, but also being like, I want to experiment more with the sound, I want to look at it in a slightly different way. And so for me that was quite a fun way of sort of continuing it but still looking back on that same story. Yeah, because especially like track 5, which is the acoustic piece for Retirement, that's probably the closest I'll ever sound to being like not blues or soul. And so it was quite cool to have like all these different, harmonies, and just have an acoustic guitar and just like and some synthy sounds on there, rather than being like, we're going to have this really big production with loads of audio tracks and stuff like that. So yeah, that was the main idea behind it, was kind of revisiting that journey, but from a more, what I would say, liberated perspective. Because I feel like as I've become more comfortable with my neurodivergence, I've almost used the music as this like space to be a more liberated, a less masked version of myself.
It's one of those things I think there's very much a common misconception when it comes to neurodivergence of like, oh my gosh, you're
Mhm.
really, really good at numbers, you're
Yeah.
really hyper focused, but I
Mhm.
think but no one ever thinks that actually, I mean, as someone that's autistic myself, music's
Hmm.
is my bread and butter. I don't make music, but
Hmm.
I love to talk about it.
Yeah.
People, the amount of times I would chew people's ears off about
Yeah.
it. And it's that sort of thing of I think it's very interesting stereotype of like, oh my gosh, like you must have it all together because you're so hyper focused. And it's like
Yeah.
if
Hmm.
I don't have music on, I'm not doing anything in the day.
Yeah.
I have to have something on or nothing gets done,
Yeah.
literally ever.
Absolutely. That's the thing is like I think also like especially I think being women who are autistic is
Oh
there's
yeah.
so many misconceptions. I think especially when you look at like the media representation, it's so often like people have this even now people still have I think this kind of Rain Man kind of image of it. And so
Oh, it's like the worst example, Rain Man.
yeah, I'm
So
gonna be honest,
much.
I haven't seen it, but all I know is it's very like stereotypical
Mm.
savant kind of like super mathsy, and like I'm actually not that great at maths. Like I'm okay at
Yeah.
it, but I've
Took me
never
four
been.
years to do mine. Like,
Yeah, like I've never been an academic person. I've always been much more creative, and so it's yeah, it's nice I think to see more autistic women in the music industry coming forward and being like, yeah, this is what it's actually like. And yeah, I'm terrible at focusing. If it's not something I'm interested in, I am so easily distracted.
kind of testing your focus a bit with this next one. If you were to define the Anxious Soul EP in one lyric from any of the songs on the EP,
Ooh.
what lyric would you choose and why would you define it with that lyric?
Oh, I think the first one that comes to mind would probably be the sort of ending line of the chorus of To Be Me, which is the second track, which is That's What It's Like to Be Me. Because when I first started writing the EP, I was actually undiagnosed. So I was mainly focusing on it being about my anxiety problem and the mental breakdown I'd had in 2022. And so when I was writing To Be a Me originally, I was like, I want to write something about anxiety that's really like descriptive, that really goes into that detail that says like this is exactly the kind of physical sensations you have, the reactions you have. But then as time went on, post diagnosis, I started feeling like it was quite a lot describing also things a lot of people on the spectrum experience, like particularly when you're overstimulated, you're overwhelmed. A lot of people on the spectrum do get very nervous and very anxious, and as we said, are often very misunderstood. And so that line of That's What It's Like to Be Me, I feel like really defines it because, yeah, half of the EP is written pre diagnosis, half of it's written post diagnosis. And so it's kind of got this like double meaning that maybe isn't always clear. So I think I would say that is the defining lyric of the EP, in my opinion.
It's so important as well. I think the timing of having a lyric like that out there
Hmm.
as such a big theme of the album, especially when
Hmm.
representation is getting better in music,
Yeah.
it's getting better on
Mhm.
TV as well. I mean,
Yeah,
literally
absolutely.
at midnight last night, Heartbreak High came out that's got
Yeah.
has got Quinny,
Hmm.
who's a woman with autism.
Yeah,
And it's very
absolutely.
much like there's so much more of a kind of it is getting better out there. It's getting
Hmm.
worse, but it is getting better in the sense
Yeah.
of there are
Hmm.
characters like Quinny on TV.
Yeah.
There's someone on the Pit, I think. There's someone in
Oh, yes.
yeah, that's I
Hmm.
think it's like her sister's autistic or she might be on the spectrum.
Yeah.
So it's really I think it's such a good time to release such a gorgeous EP
Oh, thank
because it
you.
is kind of it just adds to the amazing representation that's going on. And I
Yeah.
think
Mhm.
it's just such a lovely experience as well. You one
Yeah.
minute you groove into the songs, next minute you're having a good old sob.
Yeah.
Good old sob, like
Yeah.
making your dinner kind of thing. It's
Yeah,
lovely.
that was kind of I almost imagined I wanted the journey of the EP to be kind of like a house party and that like it
Oh,
starts
I
with a
love
song
that.
that's upbeat. So that's when you're getting to the party, you're excited. It gets into the more emotional stuff. That's when you've been there a bit longer, maybe you've had too much to drink, you're crying in a corner a bit. But then you've sort of come through that and you're getting sort of you have that second peak and that's when you come to the end of the EP and you're having a bit more fun again. And that's also when I like perform live. That's often how we do the set list. We won't necessarily do it like in exact order of the EP, but we will try to have upbeat, sort of
Yeah.
slightly more somber, and then bring people back
Make
up
it a
again.
roller coaster. Make it like a full anxious soul kind of roller
Yeah,
coaster.
basically taking you
Yeah.
on the journey with us and going through all of those emotions with us.
I mean, as we've said, it is such a an emotional EP as well, with that
Hmm.
theming of kind of it covers so
Hmm.
much from like kind of pre-diagnosis and early diagnosis. I was diagnosed at 17 myself, so it's someone I know very
Yeah,
well on the late diagnosis thing.
yeah.
But with that kind of personal backstory, I can imagine it can be quite difficult, I think, to kind of start delving into. When it comes to anxious soul,
Mm-hmm.
how did you kind of prepare to delve into such those personal experiences, and what would you say, what steps you kind of take to almost protect yourself a bit from it as well, with how intense it can be produce something so personal?
Yeah, I mean, it can definitely be quite intense, especially when it's something that you've been through and you've kind of healed from, then revisiting it. So for me, like, I mean, when I was writing the songs, a lot of them weren't written with the EP in mind. It was just very much a way of coping with what I was going through at the time. I mean, because I'm 25 now, I'm 26 next month, and I started writing when I was 18, and it was something that interested me, but the thing that really pushed it was I was getting really, really bad anxiety and I was really struggling. And so often at times it was just an outlet to cope, to just get it out of my system and get it down on paper. And so when I was going through this nervous breakdown and I was writing stuff like the third track, A Peaceful Retirement, which I think is probably the most emotive of the tracks, it was very much just trying to get my feelings out on paper. But when it came to like revisiting them later when I'm in like a better place mentally, at first it was a bit like, oh yeah, I remember that. That was kind of a difficult thing to go through. But I also kind of looked at it in a positive sense of like, I think there are happy messages in there of like, so like track 3, for example, I'm trying to reprioritize because I just need to make sure I'm happy above all else. And so even though it sounds like a very sad song, there's a happy message in there. And so I think that's kind of how I look at it, is I try to find the positive messages in the sadder, more somber songs. And that's kind of my way of getting through those. And also just like when I'm on stage performing them, I'm just enjoying performing so much. I'm just taking so much joy out of that, that I focus more on that than any of sort of the darker lyrical themes or any of like the content of it. Yeah.
I think it's a good way to do it because I think it's quite, with something so personal, it can be so difficult to kind of like compartmentalize.
Hmm.
Totally not stealing that word from Bones at all.
Oh yeah.
From Brennan from Bones
Hmm.
actually.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, I think, especially as neurodivergent people, it can be so difficult to kind of like, you've got so
Yeah.
many thoughts going on in your head and it's kind of trying to
Hmm.
split them up. And I think
Hmm.
it's beautiful to hear that you are able to like perform those songs and kind of feel
Hmm.
quite free in that. I guess that's good because
Yeah.
you've gone through the process of, you have kind of processed on it, you have worked
Mhm.
through it.
Yeah.
There's a catharsis in it, which I think works really, really well for the EP. And you see it a lot in blues and
Yeah.
jazz music anyway.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
there's you work through everything through music a lot of the time, or through chord progressions, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of how I found blues music because when I first started writing, I'd never listened to blues music at all. But I was listening to a lot of Amy Winehouse, who is like my ride or
Oh, the
die. Like
best, the
she is the
best.
reason I make the kind of music I make. And I remember thinking like about how emotive her music was and thinking like, oh my God, I wish I could be that open in my music. And so I was reading more about her influences. And I kind of had an interest in jazz music, like I liked some of Dean Martin's stuff. And so I was kind of like curious who her influences were, and she was saying a lot of old jazz music. And that's listening to a lot of that old jazz music, like Ella Fitzgerald, Tony Bennett. That then got me to think, well, people always talk about blues music. What's that exactly? And so then I started listening to a lot of more blues heavy stuff, so like Robert Johnson, Muddy Waters, but also more of the 60s stuff, Janis Joplin, some of the latest stuff like Bonnie Raitt. And because I was not a gifted songwriter, the idea that I can just go over these 3 chords and just get whatever's out of my head again and again, I could just. That for me was like such a liberating process, and that's what really got me into blues music, was that kind of idea that I can just get everything out and just keep going around on this 12 bar blues chord progression. Again, I did not do it particularly well at first. When I first started writing, it was just me on like a little ukulele. Most blues musicians, they tend to come at it from more of like a technical perspective. They tend to be very guitar focused. I came at it much more from like an emotional perspective, but there was a real liberation there, and I really enjoyed that.
And I think it's so lovely as well when you look at the origins of blues, particularly as well. And I think I think your EP fits really well timing wise as well, with one of the biggest films of the year being
Yeah.
Sinners.
Yeah.
Kind of talking about origins though and stuff, kind of with music and in general, a lot of your artworks feature
Mhm.
flowers, a lot of your press shots feature particularly roses?
Yeah.
What's kind of the story or kind of the inspiration behind those flowers in the artworks, particularly roses as well?
Yeah, I have always found flowers to be such a really nice thing to add to an aesthetic and an image, just from even from a non-musician
Yeah.
perspective, just from a personal perspective. But when I first started writing this kind of music, I was always very interested in kind of two very distinctive aesthetics. Is I really liked the aesthetic that is having quite a big resurgence now because of artists like Ray and Olivia Dean, that kind of old Hollywood 50s, 60s glamour, pin-up, even a little bit rockabilly. But I also really loved that kind of 60s sort of bohemian aesthetic. Because I'm a big Janis Joplin fan. I think there's some really great 60s music out there that really incorporated that aesthetic. And so I really liked the idea of kind of bringing those two together because I felt like they should go together really well. And so I really liked the idea of like a really big over the top flower crown as being like something that people could associate me with. And so yeah, it very much became I had gone online and just I'd gone on Etsy and just bought a couple of flower crowns, some
As you do.
yeah, some that were bigger that looked quite dramatic, and then some that were a bit smaller that just looked a bit more like they could be more casual. And this red rose one, I put it on, and it was just so I loved it so much, and it felt like it could be inserted into so many different situations. But also on top of that, I feel like as an artist, I find nature very comforting. Like, even just as a person, like, I find I'm very happy in nature. I much prefer to be in the countryside. As much as I love cities, I like to be in the countryside more than I like to be in the city. And so it feels like I'm bringing a little bit of that to my artistry as well. So that's where it kind of came from, is because originally, like, before I had really found my quote-unquote style and aesthetic as an artist, I still always had the flower crown. So when I was doing pub gigs where I'd just be in, like, a t-shirt and a skirt, I'd still have the big flower crown. But then when I was like, I think I want to have a more distinctive aesthetic, that's when I bought the suit in, the tux, the sort of more the old Hollywood stuff. I sort of wanted the flower crown to be a part of that because I felt like it just gave it a bit more of kind of a unique aesthetic. And so yeah, that's been something that's kind of transitioned into the cover art, a lot of the single artwork as well. The idea of that life cycle of the flower also like being part of that journey as well. And yeah, and it's something I think that's also quite nice because it's such a recognizable thing. Like I love a lot of like those like 40s artists like Billie Holiday. She used to
Oh,
put flowers in her
yes.
hair, like, but also again people like Janis Joplin. I mean, Janis Joplin used to wear more feathers, but yeah, it's kind of that kind of very whimsical kind of look.
Even if you look at like Minnie Rippon, who's my Rudolph's mum, you've got the
Oh
picture,
yes.
the really iconic picture with the afro, and
Yeah,
she's
with
got
flowers.
I want to say it's baby's breath in her hair, and
Yeah,
it's
no,
like the most gorgeous kind of aesthetic. Is there's kind
yeah.
of this almost, I guess, kind of growth, and almost this kind of it's seen as quite a feminine thing, but I think it's very much this thing of
Hmm.
nurturing. So you are nurturing your music, and I
Yeah,
think that's quite a
absolutely.
brilliant core to have, especially
Yeah.
with your music as well, with the way it is.
Yeah, oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I love, I know exactly what photo you're talking about. It's the one with the dungarees and the ice cream.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really great photo.
I love it. It's one honestly, it's one of my favorite photos ever as like a
Yeah.
photographer and everything. It's
Hmm.
gorgeous.
Yeah, no.
So kind of moving on a bit, because we've kind of spoken about origins, we've spoken
Mhm.
about kind of your personal experiences with the music and kind of how you prepare and stuff.
Mhm.
What is something you have learned throughout the musical process, kind of
Mhm.
about yourself, whether it is in the production of Anxious Soul or kind of through that development as an artist over the past few years? Because you've had quite a busy few, like 3 years or so, doing
Yeah.
music and performing and stuff. What would you say you've learned about yourself throughout that musical process?
I've not necessarily learned anything new about myself, but I think what I've learned is that I am capable of unmasking myself a lot more than I originally realized. Like, one of the things I found pre-diagnosis was I was constantly masking in front of people to the point where, like, at times I was like, I don't really know what my personality is at times. Like,
Yeah.
and so I feel like through the music, and that liberation I talked about, part of that is I've actually sort of discovered what my personality is and what I am like as a person. And I think that's been a really interesting journey to go on, and it's very much one I'm still on, and it's one we're all on because we're all
Yeah.
constantly evolving and changing. But yeah, I think the thing I've learnt the most is like more about who I actually am underneath everything when you take away all the masking and stuff. Yeah, I think I've learnt I'm a lot more determined than I realised as well, and a lot more ambitious. But yeah, no, I think the main thing I've really learnt is who I am in a way, without sounding too cheesy.
Yeah. But I totally get it because I think it's better to be. I'd much rather be determined than
Hmm.
have no motivation for stuff. I'd rather be like I am very stubborn. I think it's
Yeah,
better to be stubborn than be very like meh.
yeah,
I don't know kind of thing. I'd rather be more assertive and certain. I think
yeah,
in
absolutely. I
in
think I
life in
think that's a
general.
neurodiverse thing as well. Is like we're quite strong in our principles and like
Yeah,
what we believe in, and so it can be quite hard to like shift that. So like I know one thing people with autism we talk about a lot is like the strong sense of like moral
yeah,
boundaries, like, and so I think that's also like a thing that like people don't really know about or talk about as much. Is that
yeah.
yeah, we are quite sort of set in our ways, but in a good way, not like we're not
Yeah.
just like rude and like stubborn.
Oh yeah. I think some people see stubbornness and meet it with, oh, that's a bit, and it's actually like, no.
Yeah.
It's very much like we love to answer a question with a question.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. I think that's so true.
So kind of continue talking a bit more about your musical journey. If you could cover any song with your younger self at any age,
Ooh.
what song would you choose to cover with your younger self and why would you choose that song?
Ooh, that's a really good question. The first thing that came to my mind was Body and Soul by Billie Holiday that I could cover with maybe my
Oh,
18-year-old self because yeah, when I first started writing music, blues was kind of like my marriage, jazz was my first love. So I
I
feel like
love that so
yeah.
much. That's such a good like comparison. That's
Yeah,
fab.
that's kind of how I think of it because yeah, when I first started writing music and listening to music with the intention of being an artist and being a songwriter, from that Amy Winehouse influence, I was listening to a lot of jazz, and because Amy Winehouse was a huge Tony Bennett fan, I started listening to Tony Bennett, and I was like, she's onto something. This guy is incredible. And one of my favorite Tony Bennett collaborations, because he did so many of these albums where he collaborated with all these different artists, was his cover of Body and Soul by Billie Holiday with Amy Winehouse, which was the last thing she recorded before she passed away, and it's a fantastic song anyway. It was one of the first Billie Holiday songs I listened to when I started listening to Billie Holiday, and I think I remember being like 18 and feeling very much like outside of the music world. Like I didn't know any artists, I didn't know any other singers other than the people in my singing class. And so I think going from me now as someone who's like playing with a band, I've released music, I've got like a plan, like I'm writing the kind of music that I always wanted to write. Like the idea of going back and covering that song together, I think would be really, really cool.
And it's a bit like I love how the kind of thing of like when you said, oh, it's a bit like with like oh well like with the Tony Bennett and stuff, it's a bit like oh well Regina George did this, so
Yeah,
I did this kind of
exactly.
thing,
It
which
was
really what came
exactly
into
that.
my brain.
Yeah.
That's another autistic thing as well, isn't it?
Oh
Someone
yeah,
says a
for
word and
sure.
suddenly you start like singing
Hmm.
it, and it's like
Yeah, literally, that was like, well, Amy Winehouse likes Tony Bennett, so I'm gonna listen to Tony Bennett, and I was
yeah.
like, oh, I actually really like his music.
That's how I ended up here. I'm like, oh well, so and so list to this, so yeah, I'll get into this, and then next thing I know, we've been doing
Yeah,
this however long. It's
great way to discover new music. Like,
brilliant.
listen to the artists that your favorite artists like, because there must be a similarity there. Yeah, so yeah, and I still absolutely love Tony Bennett. So I have to thank Amy Winehouse for that introduction, because yeah, it was just one of my favorite artists.
You know, we need to get you on like the Grammy stage next year, maybe do it with Mark Ronson and do a full like Amy Winehouse
Oh my God, I would
kind of tribute.
absolutely
It'd be
love to. That would be
brilliant.
incredible.
I
Yeah,
feel like
that,
that needs to be a thing in like your 10-year plan is meet Mark Ronson and work with him on at least
oh,
something. Because I
absolutely.
feel
That
like
is
your
one of my
minds would work
goals.
so well together.
Yeah, I mean that is absolutely one of my goals is to work with Mark Ronson. That's obviously the far away goal because actually
Yeah.
one of my goals for a long time was work with Tony Bennett, but he did sadly pass away before that happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I would love to work with Mark Ronson. He just seems so talented, so cool, and he's done so many incredible collaborations and stuff. You know, his stuff with Ray recently has been fantastic. I'm a big Ray fan as well, so that's probably obvious.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
The only woman that could get Hans Zimmer in a song
I
And
know.
they and him actually go, you know what, sure, why not? And
Yeah,
it'll be the best
exactly.
song ever.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
no, she
so
is.
good. It's
Yeah, she
amazing.
is like absolutely one of the best artists right now, and yeah, she's very much got that kind of similar vibe to Amy Winehouse. I mean, I think she even talks about it in one of the new songs she has coming
Yeah.
out about how she gets compared, and she's now started working with Mark Ronson. So yeah, I think she's incredible.
It's like
That
a
would be another
natural
person I'd
progression. It'd be
collaborate with.
incredible. So
Yeah.
I mean, kind of we've absolutely we've got like we've almost like kind of fangirled over Amy Winehouse, Tony
Hmm.
Bennett.
Yeah.
We've chatted about Mark Ronson just then as well.
Hmm.
What kind of talk about musical responses? Like we are very like in tune with our music. What would you say has been your favorite response to the Anxious Soul EP
Ooh.
so far? What's been like the best response where it's like, oh my gosh, the music I'm making actually it means
Yeah.
the world to someone.
Hmm. I think, the first thing that came to mind, I think, has been my favourite. It was very recent. So, on when the EP came out on the 14th of March, we did a little release party at Ringside in Shoreditch. And my guitarist, Jude, who's just fantastic, he's incredibly clever and he's super organised, which I'm not. He's like, yeah,
Same. Oh my God,
yeah,
same.
he's sort of the brains of the operation. He arranged the venue, and one of the things when we were first talking about arranging the show is he said support acts, and he suggested this artist called Cal Ruddy, who's this Liverpudlian based artist, does sort of Americana stuff. He's got a very John Lennon quality to his singing
Ooh.
voice, but it's sort of like early Beatles, but more acoustic, but a bit Americana. It's really
Okay.
unique music. But he's ADHD, so autism and ADHD, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, and so we felt he would be a great support act, and he was willing to do it. And he came down, and I got to meet him, and he was lovely. And after the my set, because during the show I talked about like, well, first I said, is anyone here neurodiverse? I kind of know the answer already, and so I was talking about the thing I said with To Be Me earlier about, it was a song that was originally about anxiety that's kind of evolved that I didn't even realize was about autism. And I was chatting to him after. He said, "Oh, I was really, really touched by your story of your diagnosis. I found it very relatable. I found it very sort of, I was quite emotional listening to that. And I think that for me was quite a really big moment, is actually having another neurodiverse person come up and say, that really touched me. I really related to that. I think that for me has definitely been the number one, reaction so far.
That's such a lovely reaction though of kind of
Yeah.
like because it's
Mm.
almost that thing of I think when making music it's something that I feel like I would struggle to actually make music because I'm so
Hmm.
emotionally involved in everything so I feel like
Hmm.
I'd that's why I do the writing and stuff. I'd get up on
Hmm.
stage and I think I'd burst into tears quite honestly. But it's that kind of thing I think of when you put so much blood, sweat, and tears, especially in grassroots music, and you are
Yeah.
making this and you don't know how it's going to be received. I think
Yeah,
when you can have someone
absolutely.
go, "I love this so much," it's got a bit. Would you say that it kind of for you does it kind of empower you to kind of keep doing what you're doing? I hope it does because it's very
Yeah,
much.
absolutely. Like it does feel quite empowering, and it feels like, oh, this is actually like meaning something to other people as well. Like that I think was really incredible because yeah, I think because one of the things I find is I was always, whenever I post on social media, a lot of my statistics show like 25 to 34-year-old men and 35 to 45-year-old men, and that always surprised me because I
Yeah,
assumed like young women would probably follow along more. Now that is dependent on the sort of platform, like TikTok, I do
yeah.
more young women, but then speaking to actually someone in that category who is a male who is 25 to 34, I was like, oh, this is why it's speaking to people in
Yeah.
other categories as well. And so yeah, that was definitely like a really lovely moment, and he was just absolutely lovely. And we've talked about possibly working together because we thought that would be really cool to have two autistic people writing that kind of old school music and writing about experiences. Yeah, no, so that was a really lovely moment.
I think that would be amazing as well because I think within music, so many of us are on the spectrum, and I feel like when you're not 16 anymore,
Hmm.
you kind of lose. Not all the time, but I think a lot of us lose that community. If
Mm.
we do go into music and stuff, it's very much there's nothing really, and nothing I could really that I've seen where it's like, oh my gosh, if you are a neurodivergent musician, here is a place you can go.
Yeah.
We find each other. It takes us kind of find each other. We found each other through TikTok.
Yeah.
Like if
Exactly.
we find each other, but it's getting to that point, I think,
Hmm.
of kind of like if it doesn't pop up at the right time, you miss people. There's not. I think there's. I
Hmm.
wish that I would love to see in like the next year a bigger space for
Mhm.
neurodivergent musicians to kind of be
Yeah.
like, oh
Hmm.
my gosh, this is something that we
Hmm.
all experience. These are our
Yeah.
experiences.
Hmm.
And being able to support each other. Because one thing with being autistic is when you have community, it makes such a
Mm.
difference.
Oh my gosh, it does.
Massively makes a difference.
Just people who understand that, like, oh, this person might not be able to do this, but let's not be like a dick about it. Let's be
Yeah.
understanding and like, and just people who are like, I get it because I've been through that myself. And so yeah, it was really nice because I think it's so often I've had these discussions with other musicians who are like, oh, I think I might be on the spectrum. I'm not sure. And one thing I've said is even if you're not on the spectrum, you might still have the traits, and so you're still going to
Yeah.
find this relatable. You're still going to find the same kind of support system helpful, and you're going to be more empathetic to people on the spectrum. So yeah, I love the idea of having like a community that is sort of very neurodiverse, or if not neurodiverse, just very sort of allyship and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, that's really cool.
I think it would be amazing. I mean, actually, speaking of this year, I
Hmm.
imagine you've got quite a busy year. You've obviously the deluxe edition of the
Hmm.
EP's out now,
Hmm.
and people can go listen to it. Kind
Hmm.
of, I'm at like, what's kind of on the cards though for 2026 for
So
Louisa Rowley,
for
like
Louisa Rowley,
post that deluxe edition.
an intimidating sentence. So, yeah, we've definitely. So yeah, because I have my band that perform with me, I one thing I've wanted to do is write more with them. So because when we were performing, we were like, okay, we're getting bored of doing the same songs over and over again, and so we started just showing each other a couple of other songs and sort of being like, oh, this could be quite cool, this could be quite cool. So I definitely want to start working on the second EP, and I think the second EP is going to focus more on being in my mid 20s, sort of feeling. I've always felt like I've struggled to mature. Like I'm currently closer to 30 than I am to 20. I still feel 14. Um,
Me,
yeah,
literally me. It's mad.
and so it's like that thing of trying to sort of find your place in the world, particularly as a young neurodiverse woman. Like I have a full-time job. I work a 9 to 5. I'm off on holiday this week, but yeah, I normally I'm in an office 9 to 5, Monday to Friday in London. And so sort of feeling like I'm in this sort of transitional stage in my life because I do still live at home with my parents, thinking about moving out, that kind of thing. And so I think the next EP is going to sort of focus on post adolescence and neurodivergence a bit more. In my band have also set our sights on, which you can blame my boss at my current job, is he said, would you consider going for Eurovision? And I was like, I love Eurovision, yeah. And
That would be amazing though.
so
I could
yeah,
see it.
that would be like, so we've been, so me and the band have talked about maybe just put about in the next few months just putting some demos together, seeing if we can, speak to like people at the BBC and saying, hey, this is the kind of stuff we have in mind. If this interests you, consider us. So that's also one of my goals, because as a teenager, actually, just before I started writing music, I was a massive Eurovision fan, and so like that feels like a bit of a teenage dream. So I mean, there's a high chance they're just going to turn around and say we're not interested. But if I get my foot in the door, I could probably bug them
Yeah.
enough into it in the next
You
like
don't
5
know
years.
if you don't try it, kind of thing.
Exactly, and so me and the band are at the moment just looking at like demos, that like songs we've come up with, because also they're quite strict Eurovision on like what you can and can't submit. Like there's
Yeah.
time limits, there's release windows. So yeah, that I think is yeah. The more realistic goal is the second EP that we're going to work on. I'd like to also, I think, do more in the blues music industry in the
Yeah.
UK, because I've mostly been in the independent music scene, and like one thing people always say is like, oh, I really enjoyed that. That was super different. And then they don't necessarily follow up with me, and so going into a scene where it's like, oh, this is the kind of music we also make, I feel like it would make more of an impact, and I can make more connections there. So like I'd love to do, I'm in the process of trying to see if I can do more like blues festivals, events, that kind of thing. Just yeah, to network more within that scene. But yeah, basically at the moment it's just throwing a lot of stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. There's no
Yeah.
plan in place, it's just sort of try stuff and see what happens.
I mean, you never know. If you get Eurovision, maybe you might fully like push blues fully into the mainstream potentially.
I would love that, because
That would be
especially something on like
incredible.
the Eurovision stage, because that's a genre that is so rarely represented at Eurovision. Like you very rarely get anything that's jazz, blues. I mean, even stuff that like in the last few years they've had a few songs that are kind of soul gospel, and that's been kind of unique. But obviously, a big part of Eurovision is like Euro pop, and which I love. Don't get me wrong, it's
Yeah.
an amazing part of Eurovision. But it would be cool to get up there and do more my kind of music on the Eurovision stage, do blues music, that kind of thing. Because like blues music Eurovision, I feel like is a match that could fit so well together.
That'd be amazing. I mean, you'd look at every year. I look at what France. I think a few years ago there was a big. It's when Måneskin won. I was
Yeah,
very
that was
interested in
yeah.
seeing France, and I remember seeing it going. This is good, but I'm sure Edith Piaf did that like
Oh
a
yeah,
couple of years ago. I was like, I'm sure she
yeah,
did that about what 50 years.
yeah,
I think it's really interesting. I mean, we've sent Electronic Act this year,
yeah,
so I feel
exactly.
like anything is possible. Anything is on the
Yeah.
cards.
Well, that's the thing is my friend, she sent me this year's act and I said I really like that we're actually sending something a little bit different and we're stepping out of our comfort zone and saying let's just try something because I feel like that's also the spirit of Eurovision is being like let's just try something different and see what's
Yeah, give
happening.
it a go.
The years that people because obviously there's the Eurovision fans there's always people who prefer certain years to other years. There's years where it's considered a more competitive and stronger, years that are considered sort of quote unquote weaker depending on your taste. So like the Måneskin one, a lot of people love because it had so much. You know, you had a rock artist winning, you had, you know, EDM, folk, you had Edith Piaf inspired, you literally had everything.
And it's if you could, I mean, to be honest, on Eurovision as well, it's like an extra question because we've answered all the questions, but
Hmm.
it's kind of a thing of like if you, who's been like your favorite Eurovision entry like over the years? Because for me,
Hmm.
I loved when Ukraine sent Melovin. It was like he literally came
Oh,
out of the big, it was
yeah, the
like a big,
vampire guy.
the big like lungs piano. That was so funny because I literally
Yeah.
went round. It was like Vampire Guy's really good
Yeah.
from Ukraine. It was like the most insane thing ever, and I still keep up with stuff he's doing
Yeah,
now.
with
And it's
his
like,
stuff,
oh
that
my
was
god,
fantastic. Yeah,
that
I
was such a
think
good year. It was a
oh yeah,
really
that
good
was
year. That one. Oh
2018
my
was a
gosh.
really, really good
It's
year.
like the last good year, if you ask me. That was
Yeah.
Måneskin, quite honestly. I'd
Yeah.
argue.
I mean, I think my absolute favorite is probably 2017 Portugal, which was the winner,
Oh
because it was
yeah.
just so beautiful. And that was really the first year I'd watched Eurovision all the way through. So that was like really the start of it. Is I was about 16, 17 when that aired.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's the start of the obsession. And yeah, that for me was just such a beautiful song. And actually, Salvador Sobral has quite a jazz background as well. And so I think that would be my favourite. I feel like as a British artist, I will also shout out Sam Ryder because I did really
Yes. Oh
like
my gosh.
um yeah, so
Playing Jesus Christ in Jesus Christ Superstar and
I know
everything
I
off
saw
the
that
back
and I
of
was like,
it.
that is literally perfect costume. I
I
think
was
he's
like
also
literally made for him.
yeah, no, it's good. I think he's also proof that like because I think also the Brits always going oh they hate us, and it's like no, we sense he was such a good like representative for the UK. I feel like just from his personality standpoint, like he was like no, they don't hate us, like let's just go and be friends.
And I think that's what needs to happen, I think, in general with music. I wish sometimes that I would love to see music become a bit more like just because it's not my kind of thing doesn't mean I'm gonna like throw tomatoes at it kind of thing.
Yeah,
Because there's a lot of
it
people that are like, oh, I don't really like jazz, so I'm just gonna like the whole Timothy Chalamet, oh well, like
yeah.
I found it a weird fact the other day that apparently Tom Holland beat him
Oh yeah, for
for
Spider.
Spider-Man because Tom Holland had a
Yeah,
ballet background and did Billy Elliot and stuff.
yeah,
So it's like it's
yeah.
insane, but just because he doesn't do it means he can
Mhm.
can
Yeah,
take the
that's
mick out of it. It's ridiculous.
I was funny enough. It's funny you mentioned it because I was literally just thinking about that as you were saying,
Yeah.
like not putting down other arts because like there's worse things in the world for him to say, but as an artist, I do find it a little bit of an ick to be an artist that
Yeah.
puts down other arts. Like you're more than welcome to say this is not my cup of tea. I don't like it because there's plenty of people who I'm sure do not pay attention to ballet and opera who don't like it. But yeah, I think it's a bit harsh to be like, oh, no one cares about it because there's communities for everything. It's like if I got up at a music award show and was like, oh yeah, by the way, no one cares about like pop music, it would be quite rude. And so, you know, fair enough if I said, oh, this kind of pop, which actually I do quite like pop music, so that's redundant. But yeah, I do think being an artist, it's good to be like, you're more than welcome to like give your opinion on arts, but in a respectful way. And I think Eurovision does a really good job of that because you do have people who come in from a lot of different genres, different styles, particularly like the amount of people who in Eurovision bring sort of something that from their culture that will be like some kind of folk and they'll blend it with sort of modern music. Like the Ukrainian act, the one 2022, it was this folk hip hop, which I
Oh
thought worked
yeah.
really well and I thought was very cool. And stuff like and the 2021 Ukraine as well. I know maybe Ukraine folk sort of EDM clearly is very popular there because yeah, the 2021 as well it was Ukrainian folk meets hip hop, and yeah, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but people still showed it support, and there was like a lot of
Yeah.
support among the artists. And like when the artists are interviewed a lot of the time, when they're asked like, oh, what's been your favorite thing, a lot of them say like, oh, meeting the other artists is really cool.
And that's like, I think that's the big thing with music. I think, especially in times that are so, could be so dark. They
Hmm.
are so dark. Things are
Hmm.
so dreary,
Yeah. Hmm.
doom and gloom kind of thing. I think it's
Hmm.
something, if there's one thing I think that really with music that should be happening,
Hmm.
it's is as awful as the world is, the
Hmm.
light of that is creating music, especially music that
Hmm.
is as
Yeah.
open as Anxious Soul, and just in general, kind of allowing your light to shine in the darkness
Hmm.
and standing up for other people through that music rather than going, well, the world's terrible. That's
Yeah.
it. Right, I'm done. Music career done. Retiring. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna doom scroll and bed rot for the
Yeah.
rest of my life, kind of thing. I think
Yeah.
it's so
Absolutely.
important for music to
Hmm.
stay, like for people to still create even when the world is somewhat going a very different way at the moment, kind of
Yeah, no,
thing.
absolutely. I agree. I think especially because like music, not only does it bring people together, but it makes them think more deeply. It makes them more empathetic to other people's emotions. It's like basically the opposite of what any kind of evilly dictator type would want. It's, it's making people think, it's making people feel, it's really making them sort of be self-introspective. And so yeah, I do feel that music is like so, and art in general, any kind of art, is just so important in that sense. And even just from like a personal standpoint, like you don't have to want to be a pop star, you can just do it for yourself if you want.
Yeah.
And it can be just so like healing as like a therapeutic thing, and that was how I found it, and that's what I continue to do through it, is write about what interests me and what I'm working through and stuff like that.
And I think that's kind of the message for, and I think the whole interview really, isn't it? Of kind
Yeah.
of
Hmm.
we are better together, sort
Hmm.
of thing. Whether it
Yeah.
is in music or as neurodivergent people or
Hmm.
creating the things, I think the more united we are, the better the world can get,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
absolutely. Yeah, and it's also just like community radio stations like yourself that support grassroots artists are so important. Like just supporting like yeah, artists that maybe perhaps aren't so well known, they're at the start of their career. I just think it's so important. So thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate
Oh, it's been really lovely. I could chat to you for hours.
it.
But
Yeah.
kind of like to finish off, where can people find you online, find your
Hmm.
music, catch up with you on
Hmm.
socials? Where can people find Louisa Rowley online?
So yeah, I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. It's all just so TikTok and Instagram, Louisa Rowley Music. So LOUISA ROWLEY Music. Facebook, Louisa Rowley Musician. I'm on there. Yeah, YouTube, just Louisa Rowley. Yeah, I'm around. I've got a website, www.louisa-rowley-music.com. I've got an emailing list, so you can join there, and I'll just update you with stuff. Here and there, and you get some exclusive things every once in a blue moon. I'm not going to promise loads, but yeah, when the EP came out, I know that the mailing list got it a week early, so there's some benefits to that. So yeah, I'm just yeah, anywhere on the internet I'm around. My music's on I think all the streaming services out there: Spotify, Tidal, Apple Music, YouTube Music. So yeah, just anywhere. I'm on my social medias a ridiculous amount, so I'm sure you can find me.